As the basketball season is over, yes, the portal is open, but so is football recruiting, and Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers are making moves.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. And joining me on this episode of Locked On Hoosiers is our Locked On recruiting expert. He is the host of the Portal podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It is our guy, Brian Smythe. My man, it's good to see you and have you back on the show once again. And we typically do this when there's big names to talk about with Indiana football recruiting, and turns out Curt Cignetti and the guys are kind of getting hot. They're still churning the legs, and they're doing a lot of big things in recruiting right now.
Their official visit list is really working itself out. It's a long process, but I was just looking at it. There's a couple of top 250 kids. There's prospects from Virginia to Florida and everywhere else. It's a little bit unusual to see that with the Hoosiers, and it's great. It's never happened in my lifetime. I can tell you that. So this is uncharted territory for Indiana football.
Well, we're going to talk about a couple of in-state kids that fans need to know about. One from 2026, one from 2027 from a big-time high school here in the state. But I want to start with two kids that are outside the state of Indiana. And we have to talk about a quarterback recruit who is taking a visit to Indiana, originally from California, and it's Luke Fahey. This is a guy who's getting interest from SEC schools, Big Ten schools, and Indiana's in the mix. What can you tell us about this kid, Brian, and where Indiana stands with him right now?
Well, first off, he is from LA, and he's a kid that's been around the top quarterback trainers, and he's been trained to play the position forever. And he knows what it's like to be at a big-time program because he plays at Mission Viejo, and they won a state title as a sophomore when he was a quarterback. Like, he's seen what it looks like. It's a school like SC and UCLA recruit every year. So he's seen that. He's recruited nationally, and he told me the other day via message that he's going to visit Indiana officially. I didn't know that, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay. His list is all over the place. Ole Miss is one of his visits. That tells you something. Obviously, Lane Kiffin doesn't miss much on quarterbacks. I'm kind of curious to see where he ends up because he's got Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Stanford. He's all over the place, but the kid's mobile, he's got a gun, and he's a kid that is a huge competitor. So Indiana doesn't get quarterbacks like this very often. He's a guy that will compete to be one of the top 20 quarterbacks by the end of this cycle on all the major surfaces, on three rivals, etc. And he can go pretty much where he wants. So I had no idea Indiana was going to get an OV. So when I asked him and I got the reply, I was like, oh, good to know. Good to know. It was surprising because, again, I'm not used to Indiana being involved with these kind of prospects. You know, he had a ton before his junior year, he had a ton of offers. So now it's probably old news to him to get these kind of offers, but I just look at it from a perspective of this is not something that's happened in my life. I'm 51 years old and I haven't seen this. So the quarterback position, if Indiana can keep churning those, that changes your program, man. There's no other position like it in sport, but they've been relying on the portal here lately. You can get kids like Fahey, then you don't have to do that because that's super high risk. Ask Florida State how much the portal can be a risk.
Yeah,
I covered them, and then I can tell you it's not much fun covering 2 and 10. I will go ahead and put that on record right here and now.
Yeah,
on Hoosiers. So this is a kid. If they get him, I think he can start at Indiana as a redshirt freshman or pretty much wherever he goes. Like I don't like true freshmen starting anywhere, but he has that kind of capability because above the shoulders. He has been trained to play the position and read post-snap. That's not normal for high school kids. And again, he's playing at Mission Viejo. That is one of the best programs in the state of California. Historically, the Diablos, as they're called, they've got a lot of rings, and kids have been in the NFL forever. He knows what this looks like. So that's a really important recruitment for me because that would solidify helping get running backs in, offensive linemen in. People will center themselves around a quarterback recruit. That's important.
Well, he's 6 foot tall. He's 185 pounds, currently at 3-star, but only growing it. And depending on what outlet you look at in his rankings and things like
He'll end
that, I
up
mean,
higher.
he'll end up higher. There's no doubt. And you kind of answered my next question, Brian, about is this a program changing type of recruit? Is this a future star quarterback, whether it's at Indiana or wherever he goes? Big 10, SEC, Pac, or RIP, Pac 12, almost said that. But how about the Big 12 or the AC? I mean, wherever this kid goes, is he the next great thing at quarterback? And could he be that here at Indiana?
He could be that at any place he goes because of his intelligence. His size limits him in terms of rankings, but I'm telling you, he's been great at Elite 11s and he's been great on the circuit. He's been great just at workouts. I've seen him play in multiple circumstances. He's always good. And he's not even great in the sense of just throwing the ball. It's better to see him live. And I haven't had a chance to see him in a game. They don't go out to LA, but he's a really good runner. Indiana didn't have that last year. Luke can take off and be the RPO guy. If you dive down on the running back on the give, he's going to go around the corner for 15. It's a different dynamic, and that's something Cignetti's coached before, but he hasn't had it in Bloomington. So that's why I think he's a little bit underrated too, because it's one thing to see him at OT7 or an Elite 11 or something. They're just throwing it around. It's another one the defense has to respect his ability to get outside the pocket or run a quarterback draw. So, yeah, I think he's going to be a big-time player, and I think he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the 26th class.
Well, somebody that he could be throwing the football to if they both decide to come to Bloomington is Will Presley, a receiver from the state of Tennessee. Again, highlighting a couple of kids outside here of the Hoosier State. We'll focus in on that in the next segment. But Will Presley, somebody that's getting offers from some of the Air Force Academy, some of those military schools, some of those mid-major programs. But Indiana seems to feel like they're in a good spot with the 3-star receiver from Tennessee.
This is interesting because, like, after last year, especially with how Indiana did their portal, they took some guys. I'm like, okay, we'll see how this works out. Then they went 11-1. They know what they're looking for to fit their system. Now, he may not have a ton of offers, and he's a skinny kid, but he can run, and he has the length, and they know what they're doing with their system. So my guess is they have some kind of connection to him. I don't think he's going to be an impact guy per se, but he's a kid that fits the system Indiana runs. And he's got upside. So Indiana doesn't normally even get that, to be honest, all the time. So I'll be curious to see what else he adds, because if Indiana offered him, there's going to be other schools that ask why and go back and look. So we'll see what his official visit list looks like by the beginning of June, but I'm guessing that's going to change.
Two big-time names from outside the state of Indiana that the football program is going after. But what about here at home? Something Brian has told us a lot about. Yes, it's important to get outside, guys, but you've got to lock down the Hoosier State. We'll talk about two names you need to know, one from the 2026 class and one from the 27 class. That's coming up here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trade, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for the extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, if you use the promo code SH5, you'll get 5% off of your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, whether you're listening on audio, watching on video via YouTube. We appreciate you being here. Brian Smythe, our Locked On recruiting expert, joining us. He is the host of the Portal podcast, so be sure that you check that out, a part of our Locked On podcast network. He's talking portal, recruiting, NIL. He's got the best information in the business, so be sure you check that out as soon as you're done here. We'll have that linked for you down below. Talked to a couple of kids outside of Indiana, but you know this as good as I do. There are some talented talented kids here in the state of Indiana. And if the Hoosiers want to be successful long term, you can't let them get out of here. We'll talk about the first one in 2026, Brian, and it's a defensive lineman. The guy's up front. It's a 3-star, depending on where you look, 6'3", 275 pounds, and it's Blake Smythe from right here in the Hoosier State.
Yeah, I watched this film again today. That's a kid that's a power player. Indiana had really good defensive line play, especially the interior last year, and it changed what they could do defensively because they didn't have to commit as many hats to the box. That's a difference, man. Teams like Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, these schools usually have a lot of these guys. You don't get as many in the state of Indiana. If you do, you got to get them. You can't miss. And to my knowledge, I don't think Notre Dame or Ohio State's after him, so that's a bonus. That really helps. And I just watched this film again. Like I said, this is a power player, 3-tech or 1-tech. He'll play at Indiana, and he reminds me, just to put it in perspective, 10, 15 years ago, this is the kid Michigan State got. They used to steal a lot of kids out of Indiana and Ohio.
Sure.
2 years later, and he's starting at nose guard for Michigan State for a top 10 run defense. He's a stuffer, but he plays 100 mile an hour, and he's the kind of guy you probably wouldn't want to date your daughter, but to go after the quarterback. I'll put it like that.
Well, programs like Wisconsin and Illinois and Kansas are also going after him. And so while some people may say, oh, well, we're not worried about Kansas. Yeah, but we're talking Power 4 football here, Brian.
Yeah. Kansas is also a lot better than they used to be. This isn't like Kansas and Indiana are basketball schools, but football is totally different at both of them now too. Illinois knows exactly what they're doing on defense. Brett Bielema's got a really good program going there.
Yeah.
I think they're a dark horse to make the playoff this year. They got Luke Altmaier back. Yeah. They got their quarterback back. That really helps.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, I wouldn't pick it that way, but I wouldn't be shocked. But they're going to get respect from recruits. And then again, like Wisconsin's a program that's recognizable. Indiana can't take anything for granted, even though they're coming off an 11-1 season. If they can get players like this, especially if they can get some of these guys to commit early to late May, maybe even early June, it will help you on the back end. The June 6th, 13th, and 20th weekends, everybody's got visits. But if you can get some momentum before then, especially with the in-state kids, it's going to help you finish out the summer. So Indiana, I was just looking at the list. Their list is long. They got kids from all over the country coming in. They got one of the best receivers in the country coming in for Virginia, et cetera. You need some momentum. Local kid is the most likely to go. Smythe is that guy, in my opinion. Like, he's going to have a little splash for you.
I mean, the calendar too, and we're going to get to a 27 kid that is really, really exciting, but the calendar right now for recruiting just seems to be ever changing, right? I mean, they've shut down July. That's no longer a thing. You've got kids trying to get visits in right now. June is kind of up in the air. I mean, can you kind of take a sidestep here and explain where the recruiting calendar is right now for our listeners and watchers who maybe aren't up to date with the recruiting side of things right now?
Every 15 minutes, I need to come back on your show and do another update then. But here's the first thing. April 15th, all the way through the end of May. It's like what they call the evaluation period. Coaches will be on the road. Depending on the state, like Ohio is kind of weird about it. They don't really have spring ball, et cetera. But in the South, like especially Georgia, it never stops. But kids are getting evaluated. Coaches go to watch practices. They make offers, set up visits, and all that stuff. And during May, you have OBs. There's a few in April, but not very many. In the month of May, there's some official visits. And then June, it's just the damn breaks. Yeah. That is what I call commitment city. The last week of June, and in addition to July, is shut down now. It's to help the college coaches because they never get any time off.
Yeah.
But it really shrinks things. So the kids can still commit during July. That's fine. But there's no in-person conversations or anything. And it expedites the process. I'm okay with it. I know that. It makes my life a little easier too. But this is the new way it is. Last year, they got to like the 2nd of July or something. It was a little longer for the coaches, but that entire month's off and whatnot. You're going to see Indiana, just like Michigan, Penn State, everybody else, have a ton of these kids come in for OBs, and you'll see the bulk of your class be done. 75% of what Indiana does will be by August 1st, August 5th, something like that. Mm-hmm. And then it's just kind of rounding out the class. Junior college and high school both. Most of those kids will commit. But at the same time, there'll be a few guys you're still trying to flip and a few guys still carry it over into the fall. You just hope that you have the bulk of your class done because it's easier to get them the first time than to flip them.
Yeah, and you know this too, and fans have picked up on this over the past couple of years about how, yes, how important it is to get that initial commitment, but then also keeping that commitment, right? I mean,
Oh,
how many? I mean, it's Flip City, it's Flip Central, whatever you want to call it. I mean, flips happen all over the place, and you've got programs that are paying kids to commit, or even just to come and visit and check it out, and then they'll flip a month later. I mean, it's a wild scene right now in high school football recruiting, and it happens in other sports, but football just seems to be on steroids. And so not only is it important to get that commitment, Brian, but you got to keep that kid committed too for months on end.
yeah. The visit thing, this is just to put it in perspective. It depends on where you're at, depends on the player, the position, but like a kid getting $5,000 to go on a visit is not out. It's not unusual.
It's so crazy. That's
A
so
lot of
wild.
times, and I know this from firsthand conversation, sometimes they know they have very little chance. It's about perception.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything is politics. I don't like it. I just report it,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Sure.
So, and the portal is a little different now. I spoke to somebody the other day at a program. The reason you're seeing most schools, not all, but most schools not have a spring game televised, what do you think that is, Jacob?
Tampering.
They don't want anybody to see, oh, that kid blew up. We want to go make him an offer. Literally.
Yep. Yeah.
That's what's going on. So that puts
Yeah.
more emphasis on recruiting, and that'll probably up the ante for certain kids. So it's really awkward. Indiana, just like anybody else, once you get a kid committed, the kid may want to go there. But if somebody offers him life-changing NIL to go to another program, like, look, I get it. Like, it's very different. Relationship's still the most important thing, but if it's close and another school offers twice as much, it may not be close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I get it. Yeah. The big thing now, use Ohio State as an example, is retention. Your own roster or your own recruiting class, continuity, kids that you know, you're more likely to be successful and have a great season. Indiana last year, to be honest, is an anomaly. I don't know how many transfers played or start, but it was insane.
A lot.
How many
Yeah.
they hit. Like, it's a record. I thought what Florida State was doing in 22 and 23 was good. Indiana was even better than that. Now, I know they knew some of those kids, but they still hit on guys that came in from all over. Are you really going to do that year in and year out? Probably not. Not anywhere. It's hard. That's why high school recruiting is still your base. In Indiana, especially, we've talked about this. Linemen are the key. Smythe and other guys like that, they are the key. Anybody in state, offensive tackle, defensive tackle, or edge, you cannot miss on those guys because in the portal, the money for a quote unquote mid-level guy is gross. Last year, there was a kid, a D tackle, who was a kind of a starter. There was an experienced guy, had a year left. He got offered $500K to transfer, and he wasn't very good. That was for 1 year.
Kind of a starter. For kind of a starter.
Yeah, a guy that had started some games, but I'm
sure.
like,
yeah.
When I was told, I'm like, are we talking about the same guy?
Right. Is it spelled the same way? Like, is it coming from the
this
same
kid's
place?
not any good. So you want to win your high school battles.
That's
it's the
so
cheaper way
crazy.
You want to win your high school battles, brother.
Yeah, that's what Indiana's trying to do. And another kid from the in-state from right here in Indiana. This is a little bit further down the path, a little bit further down the timeline. This is 2027, but I bring him up because from Warren Central, I know you love this place. It's a recruiting hotbed here in the state of Indiana. A 2027 safety, 6'3", 185 pounds, Kaleb Elkins, somebody that's getting love from Indiana, Kentucky down in the SEC, and our in-state rival Purdue, Brian. They're all after this guy in 2027.
I think that's kind of what they call the calm before the storm. He'll have 30 offers.
Yeah.
I watched his film again today. He can play over the slot. He can play your field safety. He can be your single high. He could probably play cover 3 corner. He's a really, really twitchy kid for his length. He's 6'2"-ish, give or take. And he's got time to grow. He's thin, but this is before your time, but Warren Central sent out kids in all kinds of sports. Greg Graham played at Warren Central. He's an early 90s player from Indiana basketball. He's built kind of like Greg, just a long, lanky kid.
Okay.
He can really, I bet he can dunk a basketball pretty easy. He's that kind of athlete. Indiana doesn't get enough of them. Again, in-state, prominent program, probably the most dominant high school program in general in the state of Indiana over the last 20 years is Warren Central. You need to win those battles. how many times you can get him on campus this spring, maybe for a camp this summer, whatever. These are the things you can tell about the program overall, whether you are trending in the right direction. Because I'm sure Notre Dame and Ohio State are going to offer him opportunities to come to their games. And so is Michigan. And so is Illinois. And so is Florida State and everybody else. If you start getting these kids on campus early, you have a much better chance. It's proven, especially if kids take multiple unofficial visits to your campus, your chances of signing them go up exponentially. And what is he? An hour from campus, give or take, hour, 5 minutes, something like that on the east side of Indianapolis. So these are the kinds of things that I'm looking at long term. And like they've got a kid coming in for an official visit from Virginia that I really like for the 26 class. Travis Johnson, a wide receiver. He's got Penn State and Michigan, all this. That's an elite athlete. That's what this kid is, but a year from now, like Travis Johnson's 185 pounds. He's a year older. Same kind of deal. But this kid's local too.
Yeah.
Elkins is like, he's local. You need to get these kids because Indiana forever has lost them. If you're going to finally break through and be consistent, you cannot lose the local kids to Purdue, India, to Notre Dame, whatever. You have to win some of those battles.
Well, they don't come around often. You said, I mean, look, Indiana's got good football. It just, in terms of competing across the country, there are better states. That's no secret. So when guys like Elkins come along and come around, you said it, Indiana's got to find a way to get them. They're in the door right now. Going to be down the road, yes, but you can't ever work too early for 2027 and beyond. And you hinted at it a little bit, and we're going to talk about it in our final segment. With Indiana coming off a playoff last year, that's obviously created some buzz around high school recruiting, but what do they need to do this year on the field to keep that momentum going? We'll have that for you coming up in our final segment right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate Brian Smythe, our Locked On recruiting expert. He's an IU grad, by the way, for anybody that's interested. And so this one hits a little bit closer to home with him when we start talking Indiana football. And coming off of that playoff appearance, whether it was expected, nobody did, or unexpected, like it was, you have seen that carry into the offseason, right? Whether it was the transfer portal, getting big-time offensive linemen, a transfer quarterback in Fernando Mendoza, or you've seen it in the high school recruiting rankings, which is your expertise, and you're getting kids from Virginia and California and Georgia and Florida and wherever from across the country, literally, to come and visit Indiana. And so my question to you, Brian, is what does the success have to be this season in 2025 for Curt Cignetti to continue the momentum? Maybe not another playoff appearance, or maybe so, but what do they need to do bare minimum just to stay relevant in high school recruiting on the football side of things?
I think 7-5 would be the absolute lowest they could go, but they really need to win 8 or 9 games.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, Purdue is
bad.
No, that's kind. Like they're worse. They're not really a P4 program.
Say it. Yes, say it.
I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. Like they're so bad. I don't know what to say. They hired a decent coach, but it's going to be a minute.
Sure.
It's going to be a minute. You have to take advantage of that, brother. Notre Dame doesn't recruit that much in the state. Ohio State doesn't do a whole lot. You got to clean up in state. If you can win 8 games, get to another bowl. I mean, you hope you do better, but there's really no reason to think they can start reeling in kids from all over. It's one thing to get them to visit. Like, so looking at the list, Virginia and Georgia and all these places, it's a good sign. But if you go out and win 8 or more games, especially if you beat somebody on your schedule and it's being played, late at night, let's see who won the games. Oh, Indiana beat, whoever. That stuff matters. Kids want to go where they're going to win. Nobody likes losing. It sucks. Yeah. Travis Johnson, the kid I told you about, he's from Oscar Smith High School in the Chesapeake, Virginia area. He can go wherever he wants. He has Penn State. He's got Georgia. He's got South Carolina. He's got Michigan. He's got Indiana. That's the kind of thing I would, if you said that to me, I'd be like, oh, is he a basketball player? That's, like they don't get that kid.
Yeah.
Those kind of kids took notice after just 1 year. If you do it a second season, then you can not only get that player, you can start building pipelines.
Yeah.
It becomes the cool new school. Indiana was really the Cinderella of college football last year, but the slipper will come off quickly if you start out 3-5. You cannot falter this year because you'll lose these kids. It is important that you're viable the entire season.
Yeah, I mean that you kind of went into my second one there of okay, what happens if it is a bad season, or
Oh,
I guess the more obvious, yeah, I get the what happens if you go back to back. I mean, do you think it just elevates even more? I mean, the hype is there, the excitement is there. You're starting to get some commits as well. I mean, you go back to back playoffs, you're starting to talk about legitimate contention in the Big Ten in high school recruiting.
yeah, if they were to go 10-2 or better, make the Big Ten title game, whatever the case may be, then everything I said is just put on steroids. Then there would be kids that they could possibly flip in late November. There would be opportunities to get in on some kids that right now they would love to be in on, but kids are a little skeptical. All of a sudden they set an official visit for November 15th or whatever the date is,
Yeah.
That's the difference. Seeing is believing. And it'll especially be for those kids that are further away. It's one thing to get the Warren Central kid. You got to start with that. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to get a Miami kid, a kid from Houston, or get a kid from Seattle, or outside San Jose or whatever, you got to have reason to tell mom you're going that far away. Going to a playoff second time in a row, yeah, that's gonna carry weight. So in Indiana, for people that don't know, you and I joke about this off air. They have NIL.
Yes.
They have money. How they utilize it, I don't know, but it is paramount that they spend it on football. And I know their administration knows this. I know the basketball people will get worried, but if you're going to win in basketball, it helps to be good at football. You're going to generate more money for the administration in general, and then you're going to be able to spend more on, guess what? Basketball and football. So be easy now. Don't worry too much over there. I know my brethren, many of them can care less, but I think that's changing. And it's just good for the sport.
Yeah. Well, you can use football games for high school basketball recruiting. I mean, you being able to bring a basketball recruit to a football game on Saturday is huge. And rather than saying, here's the arena, the football stadium's over there, we don't really, just keep walking, we don't care. No, you can now bring them on campus on a Saturday night in Big Ten games, and it means something for a basketball recruit.
Making the environment fun on an official visit or unofficial visit is massive.
Yeah.
I mean, Ohio State basketball is not their football program, but they utilize it.
Yep.
I guarantee you some of the kids they've signed over the last 20 years that were elite recruits went on the NBA, they were happy when Ohio State had a football game on the weekend because they took them to that for the experience and being around all the college kids. 100%. Yeah. Indiana's a great school to hang out at. I'm sure they're very happy about that as a basketball program. I can assure you.
He is Brian Smythe, our Locked On recruiting expert. My man, tell them what you've got going on, what your podcast is, how they can find it, what you got coming up.
Right now is literally the most important 2 weeks of the year for football rosters. Recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal are all combining. The 16th through the 25th, the portal is officially open, but it's already kind of open because kids can put their name out. They just can't sign the paperwork yet. We're going to see a very important spring window. Programs all over the country are going to be trying to, and I'm just going to be honest, nab players off other rosters. What Jacob and I were just talking about. Retention's the most important thing. You're going to see some quarterbacks suddenly enter the portal. I'm sure they wouldn't have any idea where they're going now, Jacob.
I mean, hey, don't contact me though, Brian. Don't talk to me when I'm in the portal now. I don't want that.
All right. But we talk about it every day on the Portal Podcast, recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal. Find us on YouTube at the Portal Podcast. We're on all the social media networks, X and everywhere else. Again, it's every single day. It's nationally. I cover basically the P4. Indiana's going to be one of those schools, and it's honestly one of the more fun ones to cover because it's not just the same old, same old. They're the new name in the ring, man. And I hope it's there, not just because I'm a grad, but because college football needs new blood. I love talking about that kind of stuff. It's great.
Check him out, the Portal Podcast. It's a part of our Locked On Podcast Network. And appreciate you being here once again here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. That is it for today's episode. Again, if you're listening on audio, follow us on there. Subscribe if it's a thing. Leave us a 5-star review on YouTube. Like the video. Drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments and subscribe to the channel. And we are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.